Holiday 2020. Who's going to win this next console generation? PlayStation or Xbox? Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tech Media Reviews. This is one of many videos to come, our very first video, in fact, as you can tell from the lack of professional equipment and professional room atmospheres. We are taking the bold step in making a YouTube channel in 2020. And our channel here today is, and for many videos to come, is going to be focusing on everything tech, media, and gaming. So I hope you enjoy the content that is going to come from our channel. So specifically today, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Canadian Steve, aka Cashman, and we are joined as well by Vulcan Ragnar, aka Groovy Bird.
Hello, everyone.
So essentially, today's video, we would like to discuss, as mentioned in the intro, the ever so changing competitive world of gaming. And specifically, there's a lot coming up this summer, holiday 2020, and specifically for the summer events. Microsoft is holding on the 23rd of June, I believe, or 24th. 23rd of July, excuse me. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing the waging war between PlayStation and Xbox. Holiday 2020 is right around the corner, and a lot of things are on people's minds when it comes to the next console generation. Which console they're going to choose, which one is going to, provide that best value for per dollar, and that's essentially what we're going to be discussing about today. And coming from our experience as gamers and having attended several E3s in the past, and being that 2020 is a very different year in terms of content and what's being presented to us in this ever-changing world that we're in right now. So let's get into it.
Well, if I may bring up PlayStation's June event, I don't know if you want to discuss some of our thoughts on that. Now that the dust has settled and we've had a little bit of time to reflect on what PlayStation had to show, I still think they have a fair deal to go in terms of persuading me as a gamer who is predominantly Xbox gamer or PC gamer. But I started out on PlayStation. I do have an affinity for it, but what I'm specifically having an issue with is the messaging surrounding the PlayStation 5. The console is touted as being a native 4K machine that can go up to 8K, at a new 60 FPS standard, again up to 120 FPS. There's the first problem I have with its messaging. Sony's new TV lineup, right? The Sony X800H, 850H, 900H, OLEDs. Only one of the TVs supports HDMI 2.1 features, VRR, eARC, and auto low latency, which is the Sony X900H, which hasn't even been updated to do that yet. That, to me, that's some of the newest cutting edge features that you want to be promoting, and Sony as a company isn't even implementing it into its TVs. So here we're bringing the world of gaming and tech and audio video files, if you will, but that's problematic to me. Compounding the issue is that every game that was shown at the June event was most likely for native 4K, but a lot of them were 30 FPS, which, again, that doesn't convince me as a gamer, right? The Xbox One X is running Red Dead Redemption at native 4K 30 FPS already. I know I don't want to talk teraflops, that's all buzzwords and whatnot, but if consoles right now are doing a pretty convincing job of delivering 4K 30, whether it be dynamic or checkerboard, what have you, I'm hard pressed to find a reason why I should upgrade. And if you and I were discussing this recently, the new Spider-Man game, Miles Morales, it was it looks impressive on it, on its own, but that looks like it's running on, like it could easily run on PlayStation 4 Pro. And we were discussing this recently again. Sony confirmed it's not going to come to existing console, right? It's only going to here we have an article from The Verge confirming that fact, right? It's only coming to PlayStation 5. I don't know how I feel about that. We're going through a financial global economic crisis in the form of COVID, and it's putting strains on our financial welfare. And here Sony is saying, yeah, well, too bad. You're not going to get to play the new Spider-Man. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I think you touched on a great point there, about the game. It could potentially run on the PlayStation 4 based off what we saw at from the Sony conference not too long ago. I definitely think that we're still kind of in the shadows here. We're still in the blind in terms of what the PlayStation 5 is capable of. If that ends up being true, where one of their new titles is not being supported even on one of their previous generation consoles, such as the PlayStation 4, I definitely think that's a loss for Sony and for Sony customers. You look at Microsoft, and I think Microsoft, the one thing that they've been doing really great over the years, especially under the leadership of Phil Spencer, is really respecting the clients on previous platforms. They're really catering to current gen and last gen players. I think, I would say more so this generation of Xbox One X has been a lot, there's been a lot of remasters and a lot of ports over to the Xbox One X and the Xbox One line of consoles. And some see it as a good thing and some see it as a bad thing. I'm kind of neutral about it. But I mean, of course, I'm always excited for a new Spider-Man game. I definitely would love to see more of the power of the PlayStation 5, and Spider-Man being one of those AAA titles coming up with the PlayStation 5, or for Sony. I definitely think there's a lot of excitement for that. However, let's hope that they do release it for the PlayStation 4, because I think there's a lot of people that won't be jumping the gun to PlayStation 5 right away. Then again, there are rumors recently that have been going around the internet where the PlayStation 5 actually might cost a lot cheaper than we initially realized. If that ends up being the case, which we will touch upon later in this video, then maybe it will be more interesting for people to upgrade this generation than in previous generations, especially when you look at the discless version of the PlayStation 5. That's definitely going to cut costs there. So I guess at this point it's just wait and see. But I definitely think with the COVID-19 situation, it's made it very difficult to really, in the past when I've been able to attend E3, for example, back in 2017, we were able to see the Spider-Man game. We were able to actually play a demo of it and have physical hands-on with it and see for our own eyes. We haven't really gotten that with this game or any other game for that matter so far. Let's see what Microsoft is gonna give us in the coming weeks, and when it comes to on their game showcase date. So
that's what I wanted to bring it back to. Before we move on to Xbox, though, one final note on the PlayStation. If we're talking about, well, we can talk cost later. We'll bring it back on that. How about we talk cost both for them, but for both of them, excuse me. But for the Xbox, bringing it back to PlayStation and kind of needing to convince me, they're going to need to convince me on their console as well. They said that they already said their current gen of Xbox Ones. By the way, the naming convention of Xbox, I don't know. They got to figure that out. But
I don't know what's going on over there.
the current generation, they're going to have access to first-party games for the next 2 years. I know that may, you know, stifle some gamers because they say, oh, well, then what's the point and blah, blah, blah. But that's fundamentally giving gamers choice. Now, it could be an excuse on Microsoft's part to make, I don't think it is, but, you know, every game that they're making now and in the last 2 years has been quite scalable, right? If we look at Gears of War 4 and 5, I'm not talking about the game in terms of, you know, rating. I'm talking about technical specs and what it had to offer graphically. It was quite impressive. Running that Gears of War 4 and Gears of War 5 on the Xbox One S at 1080p 60 FPS for multiplayer and 1080p 30 for multiplayer, that's not bad. And then when you move on to the Xbox One X, oh, it's 1080p 60 for the campaign if you want, or 4K 30, and then multiplayer is dynamic 4K 60 and hitting 1800 most of the time. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like they still they do give that consumer choice, and I don't feel like it's going to hold back the newer machines too much. But again, I don't know. We're going to have to see what's going to happen with this event in July. They really have to come out with, I need to say, 3 or 4 really big hitters in addition to Halo, right? I think well, they've been leading up to this for a while. There's rumors now that they're going to potentially maybe buy Warner Brother Games Studios. I don't know if that is true, but it wouldn't hurt them either, right? They have right now roughly 15 AAA and AA studios that are going to churn out some games. I'm quite impressed with what I saw for Microsoft's Flight Simulator. Granted, that's pretty niche. Hellblade again is niche. So the only real game coming out that we know of that's going to really utilize what the Series X has to offer is Halo Infinite.
Right.
And we haven't seen much. So
we haven't. And there's a lot riding on 343. It puts a lot of pressure on 343 to deliver the Halo experience that many have been wanting over the years. Because let's be real here. I mean, I think Halo 4 and Halo 5 were very mediocre Halo entries. Now, that's from what I've heard from many other Halo lovers, especially from the Bungie days, that a lot of things haven't been consistent with Halo canon when it comes to Halo 4 and 5 and on the direction that 343 has been taking. So you have that to worry about as well, and also the pressure of delivering on this AAA title for the next generation. Some would say that this amount of pressure is just the same as Bungie had back in the original Xbox days when they launched Halo 1 as an exclusive for the Xbox original. So again, there is a lot to show off on the showcase date, and I'm very excited for it. But I don't want to only be excited for Halo. I think that's the one thing that Microsoft has been lacking over the years. I'm not going to say that they haven't had great games. They've had great games. They haven't had one of those titles where you just want to play a sequel so badly. And you look back in the 360 days when you had Gears of War, for example. This was a new title coming from Epic Games, and we were like, wow, what is this? I'm not saying we need a Gears of War leveled, in terms of scale.
No. Killer app. There has been no killer app. There's been some good games. I would wager that, Sunset Overdrive was excellent. It could have used a sequel, but it's not that killer app. And I agree with you, right? PlayStation 5 had plenty. Let's not get into Last of Us 2, but they had Horizon Zero Dawn, right? Mm-hmm. Bloodborne. Death Stranding, I don't know that it's a killer app, but they have a pretty versatile gaming exclusive gaming library that Microsoft is sorely lacking in. My hope is that those studios that they bought, last year and the year before, and potentially buying these new ones, they've been silent for a while, right? So my hope is that they've been working on something and they have something to show us. I heard
Right.
rumors of a new Fable, maybe a reboot style like God of War, right? I heard something about Perfect Dark. I heard that there's new IPs that haven't even been disclosed yet because they've been saving them specifically for this show. And what I'm getting at is here, well, twofold. One, Phil Spencer. This is the culmination of his time as head of Xbox, right? If he doesn't come through now, I'm gonna be disappointed because now it's, this, he's been hyping this up. That whole team has been, Aaron Greenberg has been hyping this thing up for a while. I didn't care for their May event. That was lackluster.
Those are quite lackluster. Yeah.
And yeah, but I don't know if you want to move into cost, and this is what I wanted to fundamentally touch upon. This is, again, touching upon global reception, but we're at the cusp of a global recession here, right? And unless here's the philosophy difference between the two of them, right? I feel as if Sony is still following, loosely at least, the old style of accruing gaming revenue from consumers, right? You buy a console, they may break even, probably making a loss on it for 2-3 years, and then they make money off software sales. And now we're hearing that the gaming industry is ready to bring that up, in the States by $10. In Canada, that our dollar is not doing too great, right? So if we want to buy a new game, let's say this, new Horizon Zero Dawn, $103 Canadian if you account tax. Now, how many games do you play a year? Probably, I don't know. Let's say you play 12. Argument's sake, let's even 6. You buy one game every 2 months. That's $600 Canadian a year just to buy into gaming. Now, this is what I wanted to say earlier. I really feel like Microsoft, with their Game Pass and their backwards compatibility philosophy, is what's, yes, it's not end all be all, but the moment you buy a Series X, it's like on PC now. You instantaneously have access to not only all your old games, which, to be fair, is likely going to be the case for PlayStation, but I could take my copy of Conquer, which I never got to finish way back when, put it into the Xbox, right now Xbox One X, and it's running beautifully. It's not native 4K, but it's pretty damn close. And I didn't pay for a remaster, right? Those textures were already imbued in the disc, and they extracted it. And I got to tell you, there are some remasters that were atrocious, and it was highway robbery. People paid $80, right, for something that it's criminal. So I think PlayStation is going to have decent backwards compatibility, but it still has to catch up on Microsoft for that. That's the only thing. That's the only thing PlayStation has to catch up on Microsoft. Everything else, the story, the narrative is that Microsoft is playing catch up. I agree with that to a point. So this is what I'm getting at, right? At what point do you say, yes, I need the new console? No, I can stuff it out for 2 years. Personally, I was excited for the Series X. I will probably get it, and if I do have the funds, maybe a PlayStation 5 discless version, because I don't have any discs for that. But it's probably going to have to wait. I might buy a PlayStation 4 before I buy a PlayStation 5. If we go back to PlayStation 4, it took a good 1.5 years, 2 years for them to really get the ball rolling, and they did. They totally did. They have all the exclusives. I don't know. My biggest point, and I'll end on this, and I know I'm ranting just a little, but if you account, let's say that, for argument's sake, just throwing a wild card here, the PlayStation 5 costs $500 US. That's roughly $650 Canadian. And we alluded to the fact that each game is going to cost 103 Canadian. So my initial cost to get into that whole ecosystem for the year is 1,200 Canadian dollars minimum.
No,
That's
I completely
astounding.
agree. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I think you're on point. I think, the next generation of consoles, I think we're going to have the disc version of the PlayStation 5 start at $499. The discless version start at $399. And,
It would be
Canadian
competitive.
currency. Yeah, no, for the US, but in Canada, we're looking at, it would most likely be $599 and $499 for the discless. But again, we don't know. Microsoft, their series of consoles that are supposed to come out, we have the X and then an untitled version of the Series X, apparently the S. I definitely think that in terms of price point, like you said, from my experience, in your experience, and from the experience of others, the Xbox has had years behind them, of experience of offering this community. Microsoft really makes their consoles and their, having access to their games very budget friendly. You look at the, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. You look at in the United States, for example, there's even the financing option where you can finance a console at a cheaper price and you get the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate included with Xbox Live Gold. You really have that ability. And I think, the one thing that makes me happy that Microsoft is doing, and then we haven't really heard about what Sony is really doing in terms of PlayStation 5, is, if you look back in previous generations where a new console would come out, that previous generation console was supported for, I would say, 2-3 years. Games were still being developed for that previous generation console.
The last PlayStation 2 game came out in 2012 or 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So see, these types of things, I find are slowly fading in this generation of gaming. But I think Microsoft is really the only thing that I'm disappointed, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself when I say disappointed. But when we went from the 360 to the One, I was very disappointed when Don Matrick was at the head of Xbox, and anyway, that's in the past. And when the Xbox One X came out, when we were at E3, we were at the showcase. I was blown away, but I actually thought it was going to be a new generation at that point. A lot of people didn't think so. I did. So when I upgraded from the One S to the X, yes, I saw a substantial difference, but I wasn't really, I didn't feel as in love as I did when I went from the original Xbox to the 360. And I have that same feeling going into this next generation where I feel like there's not much else left to do in terms of gaming, and that this Series X is just going to feel like another iteration of the One family line. And maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I don't know. That's just my feeling. I want to be excited. I definitely am excited, but I don't want to just feel like it's just a DLC. It's just an upgraded version of what I want that I already have. I want it to feel as if my money went into a brand new generation of consoles, brand new generation of graphics and frame rates, and feel like a new generation, not just an incremental, a little small update from the One to the Series X. That's just my opinion. I definitely, we could talk about this for days. And when you look at the designs of these consoles, it definitely looks like we're going into that next generation. And, there's a lot of people that, hate on both designs of these consoles. I think they're very bold. I think the Xbox looks like a great, a PC-like structure. And the PS5 kind of gives me that resemblance of the 360 days. It's very unique, it's different, and it's one of these consoles that I feel like for years you're going to be like, that's the PlayStation 5. And I really think it stands out from the crowd and in terms of what they made in the past.
I definitely agree there. But something I want to touch upon, or Canadian Steve, excuse me, is that PlayStation 5 already said they're going to revamp their UI for the PlayStation 5. Okay. And I see merit in that, but that I think we definitely need to manage our expectations, because I think generally speaking, consoles are becoming more aligned with the PC space, in that you can incrementally, you know, not everyone can afford the new console, and having that option, it's you know, you don't necessarily need to upgrade right away. It's like your phones, right? Apple, it's Apple. Android hasn't changed much. There's a lot of options behind the scenes, and there's new, you know, apps and features, but fundamentally on the surface, it's the same. It's the ecosystem. So I think the gaming space, the console space specifically, has taken some cues from that, and I do see merit to that as well. I agree with you, nostalgia speaking, when they come out with a radically new, different design, new controller, new, you know, 3D, whatever. Now we've come to a point where gaming is so, the graphics for games are so impressive as is. Last of Us 2, again, regardless of what you feel for the game, looks impressive. Gears 5 looks
definitely.
Red Dead Redemption. My God, every time I play that, I have to stop in and take the scenery like I'm on vacation. And that's not something, you know, I can't go, I played some 360 games that weren't updated. And, you know, I thought 360 was an HD console. My God, my eyes were having a hard time adjusting.
But would you say though that we're living in a new generation where studios have gotten lazier, and you know, where what I mean by that is being, you know, are we going to get 5 new versions of Skyrim for this generation, where, you know, or Grand Theft Auto, a game that's already, well, it's been out since 2013. Is it just going to be brought out on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, you know, and just updated, and they're going to charge $60-$70 for a game that you already bought?
That's the fundamental difference in the philosophy. I think PlayStation is going to take that cue again, but that was this past generation. They were mediocre consoles from the get-go. Okay, so when they said, "Oh yeah," well, they had to kind of rely on to bring up the number of games on there, right? Nathan Drake remastered, Last of Us remastered, Gears of War Ultimate remastered, Halo remastered. Well, yeah, but guess what? It holds up, and Microsoft and 343 are still supporting Halo. They definitely came out of the gate iffy, but you know that game's still getting updates. It just got a 4K HDR 60 FPS thing. They gave out Halo Reach, Halo 3 ODST, and more than likely they're going to put out Halo 5 in that collection at some point.
Right. Microsoft just announced too that studios that are updating their games for the Series X are not to charge for that upgrade.
Well, that's what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
That is exactly it. Whether or not, that's up to the developer. Microsoft made it clear they will not be charging for that, at least first-party games and old games that they have control over or they can obtain the assets for, so on and so forth. But I think that as there's going to continue to be lazy, they haven't pushed out a really compelling game for me since, well, even Wolfenstein 2. You know, it was good. I didn't finish it. And I'm not saying that particular developer. You know, I know they publish Doom, and that series is totally revitalized and revamped, and I love it. But other than that, you're right. Here's another, you know, Elder Scrolls 5 remaster, or now we put it on the Switch. And why? You know, why are you going to put people buy it? Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about Nintendo. This is specifically whatever, but they're getting away with highway robbery, and I think that should be another video. I know we talked about having a video discussing Xbox Game Pass versus PlayStation Now. That's definitely, I don't want to get too much into that, but just wrapping up here, because we're been a little over the time limit. But for me, I'm excited for both consoles. That's totally putting that out there. I think PlayStation 5, definitely radical design. Some of the games really do impress me. I think Ratchet and Clank is definitely utilizing that SSD quite in very unique ways that I honestly wouldn't have thought of. I know Horizon Zero Dawn, in the first one, they wanted to have, the ability to fly. They might add that in this game now. They have that overhead where they can use that. Uh, and by the same token, I'm extremely excited for what the Series X has to offer. I know I might be in the minority, but again, Hellblade is a series I love. I haven't seen a new flight simulator in forever. And
Right,
if they
yeah,
bring
Flight
out
Simulator.
Fable 4, I don't know about Perfect Dark. I'm gonna have to see what they do with that. Maybe that new IP that they've been rumored to have, that could be amazing. And finally, Halo Infinite. I think they finally, hopefully, 343 got their groove. So I'm excited for that. And at the very least, let's say I can't upgrade right away. I have the X series. Sorry, again with their terrible naming convention. Xbox One X already confirmed to be running at 4K 60. The S is going to be running at 1080p 60, probably dynamically, if we're being real. And on the Series X, they said it's rumored to be 120 FPS for multiplayer. Now that's something I can say, you know what? That's something maybe that's compelling. That's not something I can currently do on the hardware I have. And when you add ray tracing and maybe they have native 4K running across the board and that's something to me, okay, here we go. SSD, no, that's something I say, yeah, there's a fundamental difference. It's not, like you said, revolutionary, because at this point it's becoming incremental, but it's still compelling. And
Yeah,
price
definitely.
point, I'm definitely looking to that July event to see what they have in store. They probably won't announce prices, but they're gonna have to come out with 3 or 4 big hitters and Halo, not just Halo. I don't know. What do you feel?
Definitely. No, I definitely agree with you. And I think at this point, the best thing we could do is just wait and see. And I think, honestly, we're not that far away. And I think that's a great way to end our video today. What do you all think about this generation of consoles that's coming out? What are your thoughts? Comments down below. Please leave your thoughts on what you think the next generation of consoles is. What you think is going to end up happening, and who you're going for, PlayStation or Xbox, or maybe you're even going to go with Nintendo. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, thumbs down. Of course, we're always looking to improve. And also subscribe or click on the little bell notification to get notified when we create new videos. So once again, thanks everyone for joining us, and stay tuned for new videos. We're definitely going to be changing the formats a little bit and looking at upgrading our equipment and talking about more in-depth news and tech in the future. So thank you again for joining us. Once again, I'm Canadian Steve. And
Ragnar.
Yeah.
Signing out.
Thanks.
Stay safe, guys.